Ladies and gentlemen, Liberal International is a proud, long-time partner of the Geneva Summit for Human Rights and Democracy, and I am honoured to be here today for the 17th Annual Summit to present the 2025 Courage Award. Each year, this prize recognises those who have shown bravery in the defence of freedom and human dignity. This year, 30 human rights groups that co-sponsored the Geneva Summit have chosen to honour two inspiring figures from Venezuela: President-elect Edmundo Gonzalez and Maria Corina Machado. For over 2 decades, the people of Venezuela have suffered under a regime that has systematically dismantled democratic institutions, suppressed dissent, and trampled on fundamental human rights. The situation has become so bad that over 7 million people have fled the country. Against this backdrop of repression and hardship, Edmundo Gonzalez and Maria Corina Machado have emerged as beacons of moral courage, offering the Venezuelan people a vision of hope and renewal. Ms. Machado has spent years at the forefront of opposition, standing strong in the face of authoritarianism. Despite being barred from running for office and facing relentless persecution, she has never wavered in her resolve to restore democracy in her country. Her voice has been a rallying cry for millions who dream of a free and prosperous Venezuela. Edmundo Gonzalez, a seasoned diplomat, was thrust into the political spotlight at a critical moment. And as the consensus candidate of the democratic opposition, his calm resolve, principled leadership, and defense of democratic values have inspired a nation yearning for change. Despite all attempts by the regime to obstruct, intimidate, and delegitimize the opposition, the Venezuelan people have spoken. The historic victory of Edmundo Gonzalez in the presidential election of last July represents not only a triumph of democracy, but also a testament to the resilience of those who have fought for it. But be in no doubt, Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo Gonzalez have risked everything for a cause greater than themselves: the right of their people to live in freedom and dignity. For their dedication to democracy in defiance of dictatorship, for their faith in the triumph of the human spirit, we are proud to present the 2025 Courage Award to President-elect Edmundo Gonzalez and Maria Corina Machado. Maria cannot be here as she cannot leave Venezuela, but President-elect Gonzalez, we are so honored to have you with us. Please come forward to receive this well-deserved recognition.
Good afternoon, all of you. Excellencies, distinguished member of the Geneva Summit for Human Rights and Democracy. It is an honor to accept this Courage Award, one that goes beyond me as an individual. It is a testament to the resilience of a people who, in the face of adversity, have chosen not to give in, not to woo the face of adversity, not to stay silent, not to surrender. I share this award with Maria Corina Machado, whose determination embodies the unbreakable spirit of our nation, and with every Venezuelan who has made courage a way of life. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the determination to push forward despite it. And that is exactly what Venezuela has done. After 25 years of threats, Venezuelans have both on July 28th raised their voice and continue to fight today. The cost of this fight has been steep. Since the elections, more than 2,000 people have been arbitrarily detained. Forced disappearance and arbitrary arrests have become routine tools of persecution. My son-in-law was kidnapped on January the 7th, and his children, my 7 and 8-year-old grandchildren, when he was going to school. To this day, his whereabouts remain unknown. Former presidential candidate Enrique Marquez has also been arbitrarily detained. Human rights defenders like Rocio San Miguel and Javier Tarazona remain in prison. Their campaign team have spent more than 300 days seeking refuge in the Argentine embassy in Caracas. Over the past 2 months, they have faced relentless security forces siege and have been deprived of electricity and access to drinking water. Maria Corina has intercepted in broad daylight and abducted by security forces in the middle of a public demonstration. Journalists have been persecuted, media outlets shut down, and ordinary citizens in prison simply by expressing their desire to change. Each of these cases is not just a personal tragedy. They are part of a deliberate strategy by the regime to instill fear and crush any trace of dissent. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has warned about the use of repression as a state policy, the shrinking of civic space, and the alarming condition of political prisoners. Meanwhile, Venezuelan migration, driven by repression and economic collapse, has become the largest humanitarian emergency in the Western Hemisphere. Millions of Venezuelans have sought refuge in neighboring countries and beyond, facing enormous challenge as they struggle to integrate and survive. In the face of this, the international community cannot remain indifferent. The struggle of Venezuelan people is not just about our freedom. It's also about protecting democratic stability across our hemisphere. The recognition we receive today is not a finish line. It is a reminder of the responsibility we share. It is not just about resistance. It is about building. Building with ideas, with organization, with unity. Building on the memory of what we once were and the certainty of what we can become. Democracy is not a distant promise. It's a space we must claim throughout concrete action, with the conviction of those who know that fear is nothing more than an echo that fades in the face of determination. There are three urgent and necessary actions that I want to emphasize today. First, strengthening international pressure. Second, protecting persecuted Venezuelans. And third, enforcing international human rights treaties. The fight for democracy unites us across borders and calls us to rise the sacrifice so many have made. I want to thank the organizations that have made this summit possible, both inside and outside the country, who continue to strive for freedom. We are not alone. We are not few. There is still too much work ahead. Democracy must be fought for and with the support of the free world and unwavering determination of our people. We will prevail. The recognition is not just an award. It is a commitment, a reminder that our fight for democracy and human rights in Venezuela is our North Star. Thank you for your attention.
Dear friends, organizers, and distinguished guests at the Geneva Summit, from Venezuela, I want to express my deepest gratitude to you for recognizing President-elect Edmundo Gonzalez and me with the Courage Award 2025. The mere fact of being considered here among so many brave people fighting all over the planet to defend freedom, democracy, and human rights is a huge honor. Evidently, the true deserving recipient of this prize is the Venezuelan people. The courage recognized here today is a courage demonstrated by millions of Venezuelan citizens who on July 28 won an overwhelming victory over a brutal tyranny. That day, Edmundo Gonzalez obtained more than twice as many votes as Nicolás Maduro, reaching almost 70% support among those who were allowed to vote. Furthermore, if the regime that oppresses Venezuela today had not used countless arguments to prevent millions of Venezuelans from voting, the gap would have been much greater. This is why it is necessary to value that victory in its fair measure. Anyone who knows today's Venezuela understands that behind each of those millions of votes lies enormous courage, work, and love. That's a courage required to overcome the censorship, lies, coercion, and threats the autocratic regime imposes on every single Venezuelan, inside and outside our country. That's the courage it takes not only to vote, but also to defend your voice. Maduro agreed to compete against Edmundo Gonzalez because he thought that we, the citizens, would never be able to prove our victory. He ordered everyone under his command to prevent widespread access of electoral monitors to the original tally sheets printed by the voting machines. But he never anticipated that very high level of organization that our people had developed on this occasion. Hundreds of thousands of brave citizens participating in the collection and publication of the original tally sheets. To do this, our volunteers and monitors had to overcome all kinds of threats at each voting center, then take the tally sheets to the totalization centers that evaded the surveillance of the autocratic regime. Thanks to these largely anonymous heroes to whom this Courage Award truly belongs, the victory of the Venezuelan Democrats is known and recognized worldwide. But by committing to this goal, thousands of Venezuelans and their family took great risks. The Maduro regime does not forgive them for the defeat they inflicted on July 28, and that is why they are now the targets of the true manhunt. In order to break any citizen resistance, the regime repression forces apply Sapenhat, the persecution of an entire family for the acts of a single individual. The persecution was already merciless before July 28 elections. The members of our campaign teams know this well. Many of them are in prison, some over a year. Many suffered forced disappearances and torture, including the son-in-law of our president-elect. Hundreds more are in hiding or exile, while my closest collaborators remain as hostages in the Argentinian embassy. These groups survive a brutal siege day by day while they are denied the safe conduct required by the international treaties. The post-election repression has been even more brutal. More than 2,000 Venezuelans have joined those who, for political reasons, suffer human rights violations and crimes against humanity. Children, teenagers, women, the elderly, the disabled. No one is safe from this savage repression. In spite of that, the courage of Venezuelan Democrats is infinite because our fight is just and necessary. We have managed to unite a country, tearing down the barriers the regime built to divide us. Ours is the fight of a nation united against a criminal tyranny in defense of human rights, freedom, and democracy. That is why we have no alternative but victory. We will continue fighting until the end, until justice reigns again in Venezuela and we can bring our kids back home. We have come such a long way. Maduro regime today is isolated internationally, rejected nationally, and divided within. Venezuelans are determined to defend our July 28 mandate and our constitution and popular sovereignty and force. Yes, we're facing the most dangerous and challenging hours. We are prepared and determined, and we know that we are not alone, as all of you have proven today. Venezuela will be free. This fight is until the end. Thank you.
Congratulations, President-elect Edmundo Gonzalez and Leader Maria Corina Machado on receiving the 2025 Courage Award, and on your important calls to action.